In today's video, I'm going to take a look at the Ameralabs TGM-7 tabletop gaming resin. You can find this on Amazon at $89.99 per kilogram. It is supposed to be one of the best resins out there for tabletop gaming miniatures. We're going to compare this to a couple of blends that I have found that I really liked over the years. Next one being the Magiflex, a 50-50 blend by weight of their Performance Plus resin and their Nylon-like. And then we're going to be looking at a 40-40-20 blend of Frozen's Hyperfine Graphite, RPG resin, and Onyx Impact Plus. This blend comes in at about $59.23 per kilogram. All of these could be found on Amazon. That's where I got the prices from. All of these models are going to be printed on a Frozen Sonic Mini 8K printer. I am using a 20 micron layer height. The models that I'm going to be using in this video are from Flesh of Gods. They do grimdark miniature models. They have a subscription. You can find them on My Mini Factory Tribes or at their website, fleshofgods.com. They are one of the best creators that I have found over the years. They're my absolute favorite. I highly recommend you check them out if you're looking for some grimdark models for your gaming or just to paint and have on display. Another benefit of their subscription is that they include what they call an RPG magazine. These are going to have different lores and RPG stats that work with the D&D 5e system. I have used these to run a campaign, over the years, and the campaign I literally built it around their RPG lore and stats. That has been just so fantastic month to month, giving my players something new to look forward to, and the models are absolutely amazing. So I chose these models from their June 2025 release, Plague Bringers. We're going to look at these pictures of all three models together, then we're going to zoom in, go a little closer up, and look at some of the fine details on the models. So let's get on with some of their prints and take a look at these models and see how these resins compare. The first model we're looking at is the Spore Servant 3. And we'll say too that all of the models in this video were printed from the pre-supported files that were done by Atlas Support Solutions. Next model is the Spore Servant 2. Notice that this TGM-7 had some issues in printing. Next up, Armin, Quarantine Warden. You can see a couple issues on part of his chest. Same issues, similar issues with the Magiflex. Next up, Spore Servant 1. Next, we have Thane, Quarantine Warden. Next up, Kordek of the Bleeding Bloom. Next, we have Nirok, Serpent Slayer. Now, on to my favorite part. Let's break some minis. First, we're going to do a little bit of bend testing. Push on his arm here, see where it breaks. getting a good amount of bend out of this frozen blend. Didn't even break on that time. We got the Magiflex left and the TGM-7 is what we're going to look at now. You can notice too on his chin, we had a print failure there. So this TGM is really soft when printing, which you do need to strengthen your supports, maybe give it more contact points or thicker supports. You can see the frozen blend printed great on that chin area. Now the Magiflex. That didn't have any print issues on this model. And bends really well. I don't know if you can see it here, but this Magiflex kind of has a bit of a glossy, smooth texture to it. This surface isn't great for painting. It does make it a little more difficult and challenging to get the primer on there, but it can be done. Let's bend this fungus. There's where it broke. Let's see how the TGM handles that. TGM definitely handles that bend better there. Now the frozen blend. Frozen breaks a little bit earlier. It's a little bit more brittle than the others, but still offers plenty of bend. Let's go ahead and see if we can snap this arm off. Yep, nice clean snap at the break. I do like that. I'd rather my models snap than tear. And Magiflex has more bend and still a little bit of a snap. More bend out of the TGM-7 than the Magiflex. But no snap yet. Is it going to snap? Doesn't look like it. Very flexible stuff here. Oh, there it is. Now that was more of a tear. I do like a little bit more of the snap. It just makes for a little bit harder of a model, which that does help with printing as far as the support structure and everything. Take a look at a spore servant and see what we can break on this guy. The Magiflex seems to bend a little bit more before the break point than the frozen blend. Now this model here, you can see it had a significant failure when printing with the TGM. And it bent just about as much as the Magiflex, but it didn't break as strong when it did break. There's a good look at the comparison from a good print with a frozen blend to the failures of the TGM-7 due to it being such a soft resin. This is why it's important to make sure you have a good, solid support structure to hold that print in place and keep from moving during the printing process. All right, now, can the minis fly? First off the shelf is the Magiflex blend. Ooh, got in all the spider webs. Yeah. All my bases are glued on, or my models are glued onto their bases with just some Gorilla Glue super glue gel. Usually the bases pop off first. I actually really prefer that that be the break point when something does fall. That model looked good on his fall. Let's wipe these spider webs off. Ah, they're so sticky. All right, let's knock the frozen guy off. Ah, So that shield took the hit and it broke the arm. So this shelf is probably about maybe almost 5 foot tall. Definitely well over table height. And the TGM-7. Looks like he just popped off his base. Let's check this model. You can see his leg that had a failure printing too. So had quite a bit of failures on this TGM-7 resin because I did not adjust my supports for the resin. All right, another Magiflex held up well. Now the TGM-7. All right, he landed on his sword. So the TGM is not unbreakable. It just depends on how the models land when they do fall. And let's take the frozen blend down. There he goes. And there goes the sword on that one. Back to the Magiflex, see if we can get this one to break. Yep, there it goes. All right, so all three have broken the sword as well. All right, now one of my favorite tests is let's see how they handle being thrown across the room. This is probably about a 15-foot or so toss onto a slate floor. All right, fly, little spore servant, fly. All right, our frozen blend lost a leg. That super glue held up. TGM-7 is looking really good. And the Magiflex, like I said, I'm fine with the base popping off. It's not a big deal at all. And the model itself is in good shape. Now let's throw it straight up in the air. This is probably a good 12 foot high. The TGM-7 onto that slate floor. So this is giving us more of a direct impact. We can see the back of his mace handle is broken off. Not too bad. That's a small little thin piece you can see. So and the frozen blend. All right, he lost his shield, but the mace is still intact. And the Magiflex, I kind of broke that mishandling it, just kind of squeezed it too hard and snapped it. So even though these are some strong resins, they're still not unbreakable. Magiflex survived the fall pretty well. That's good. So yeah, you still have to be kind of careful with any resin that you're printing with. But relative to resins in general, these are the more durable ones. Now, table height, let's knock these guys off right onto my carpet all together now. All right, I see a base popped off there. No big deal. That's the frozen blend. He's all intact. I believe that is the Magiflex that had the base pop off at the glue, and the TGM-7. Everything is perfectly intact. As expected, table height on the carpet, that's not a hard impact at all. All right, so let's send them off the shelf. TGM-7 first. He looks A-OK. Magiflex next. Perfectly fine. And the frozen blend lastly. Oh yeah, he must have landed on that sword. Popped it right off. Let's try to break some more swords. See if we can get one to land on him again. All right, Magiflex still holding up. And TGM-7. Ooh, that one got a bounce. All right, the sword is still intact. Good. All right, now let's take a look at our Serpent Slayer and do a little bit of bending on this. We're going to bend the sword on the frozen blend. See where it snaps. All right, snapped past about 90 degrees. And the TGM-7, let's see if this will go any further. Oh yes, look at the bend on that. No break. And compared to the Magiflex, get that base out of there, just making it awkward. And Magiflex went all the way over like the TGM-7 as well. All right, pop that off with ease. I'm sure this one will pop off too. Oh, there's the tear. But definitely got a little bit more flex out of that TGM. And frozen, popped right off. You can see here in the lighting how the frozen blend seems to produce sharper details to me. I think that may just be the color of the resin. So each of these resins has its own pros and cons. It depends on really what you're looking for as to what's going to suit you best. The TGM-7 performed really, really well in the durability and bend testing. I was extremely pleased with it. However, it's the most expensive of the three that we've tested. What its drawbacks were, in my opinion, it wasn't as easy to print as the other ones. It does need a stiffer support system, whether they are thicker support structures, more contact points. As you can see in one of the models, it did deform during printing. There was actually a couple of other models too that had some minor flaws in them compared to the other two blends. The Magiflex 50/50 resin, that was a better resin as far as printing goes. What I dislike about that one is that it's got a smooth sheen and almost gloss surface texture to it. In my other testing, I found that that doesn't accept primer as well as the matte surface texture that's a little more toothy and easier to grip that primer. So it makes it a little more difficult to paint. Not that it's impossible, but there needs to be a little bit more care going into it when you're painting with that resin. It does perform great. It's very durable. It prints really well. It's the lightest of the colors. So for my application, I do a lot of photography on my raw resin prints, and I don't like the way that it handles the light because of the light color. So not really my preference for what I do, but it's good for just overall printing. As far as if you're doing a lot of these miniatures, it does print well. It's got great details, but there's that surface texture, that extra sheen that kind of is a drawback for me. The frozen blend. I've worked with a bunch of different frozen resins in the past and kind of developed this blend that I'm working with today as my favorite overall mix for what I do. It is still durable, especially compared to normal display resins like a full hyperfine graphite or an Aqua 8K or any of those normal display resins that do print really well but tend to be pretty brittle. So the frozen blend is the middle of the road as far as the price goes. I think for what I do, bang for the buck, for a highly detailed miniature that is durable enough for gameplay and is really easy to paint. The texture on it does accept the primer and the paint really, really well. So for me, that's my favorite blend. The TGM-7 is fantastic. As far as accepting paint, it's got the matte surface texture. It appears to accept paint really well, which I have not tested. But just looking at the resin, I'm really confident that it's going to accept a primer and a paint really, really well. Obviously, the durability did surpass in testing the other two blends, but that, it's going to take a little bit more resin to get your support structure right to get those quality prints, and it's the most expensive of the bunch. So if you're looking for a resin that is, I would have to say, top notch, should accept paint really well. It prints details just perfectly fine. It is extremely durable. If you're willing to sacrifice a little bit more resin for a better better support structure for printing, the TGM-7 is the way to go. It's not very far out there in price when comparing to these other premium resins, but it is the most expensive of the bunch. So all in all, these are just 3 examples of many different resins, especially when we start talking about blending resins. There's many different blends that you can do. I highly advise that you do the testing yourself, see what's going to work for your application. But I was really impressed with TGM-7. I have another project coming up that I have some other colored TGM-7 to test. So I'm really looking forward to that. Once I get all my models sorted for that, I'm going to be printing those with the TGM-7 different colors, and we'll take a look at the saturation of the colors, the detail when printing in a colored resin, and of course, I expect the durability to be fantastic, just like this TGM-7 grind. So thanks for watching. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, just drop a comment. Yeah, thanks a lot. Happy printing.